It's Falcons week, and we got our guy Scott Kennedy here to break it all down with us. But first, Handsome Jack.
Broadcasting live to Bills Mafia worldwide with Greg Thompson and Aaron Quinn.
Welcome to the NFL. Doesn't matter what's happened before today. Today's a brand new day. It's a brand new season.
Your number one podcast for objective Buffalo Bills coverage. No matter where you are, we got you covered.
Good evening and welcome to the Cover1 Buffalo podcast. You're joining your host, Greg Thompson, along with my partner in crime, Aaron Quinn. Aaron, how we doing?
I'm doing all right. I will say fall, I think officially has arrived here in Western New York. It was like damp and cold for the first. We've had this like San Diego weather here in Western New York. I'm sure you guys have had the same weather over your way and finally got a taste of fall. So it's really finally feeling like football season. Other than that, everything's terrible. We should fire everyone and the entire staff, and the Bills are the worst, right?
Yeah,
Other than that, everything's great for me. How about you?
I finally come around to decide, sure, we should play the rest of the games, I guess. I wasn't sure at one point if we should actually finish playing the rest of the games or we should just pack it in. So I have decided we should play the rest of the games.
See how it shakes out.
It's been a pretty wild process to see everybody going through, the first loss. It was extra painful because it's a team you're still favored. It's a division rival. It's a game you feel like you're supposed to win.
Yeah. It's at home. Yeah.
I needed this game. I needed to turn the page. I needed to flip over and to be able to get ready for one. And it's always interesting. We always talk with the fans that when we rotate through the different NFC divisions, it usually gives us a chance to kind of connect with some new people and guys that we haven't necessarily had on the show before. And no different than this week, we're going to bring on our guy, Scott Kennedy, for the first time. Scott, how we doing?
Doing great. Appreciate y'all having me on. Looking forward to hosting Bills Mafia. In fact, it'll probably be a Bills Mafia takeover on Monday Night Football down at Mercedes-Benz. This place behind me right here.
I do think I've talked to a number of people, and out of all the games this year that I've heard people are traveling to, Atlanta is the one that pops up the most often. And I think it's a mix of nice weather, but the facility itself, I think people are interested.
Gorgeous.
There's a lot of nice weather opportunities to go travel to these games, but I think a lot of fans that I talked to wanted to get eyes and experience this facility that you guys have down there.
Well, not only that, it's not just travel. Nobody moves north. Nobody.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of New Yorkers in Atlanta.
Yeah.
There's a lot of native Bills fans who have brought their Bills fandom with them. So
when I met Greg, he was still down there and was a Bills fan that would show up to this game.
Not far from you. I lived up on the edge between Alpharetta and Cumming. I lived there for quite a while I was working for
probably
for
a
UPS.
Pitching wedge away from me. I live in.
I was just gonna say, I think I saw Johns Creek,
part of Alpharetta.
Yeah. So I used to live just up beyond you there. So I actually, the last time the Bills were at Atlanta, I went to that game and was there for that game. So it's a fantastic place for the season this year and for everything. I know it's been pretty exciting for the Falcons coming in. Obviously the end of the year, peaks with Penix, the investments in the defense. Now not everybody loves an early bye, but at least getting a chance to step back and see the team. Where's the fan base at? Where is the feeling of how this team is looking, meeting expectations, 2-2, but really the weird anomaly of whatever that Carolina game was, the rest of the games all very competitive or really exciting games. Where's the fan base's head at?
Well, cautiously optimistic, but also realistic, knowing that these are the Atlanta Falcons that we're talking about. I say it's hard to trash talk an Atlanta Falcon fan because no one can hurt an Atlanta Falcon fan the way the Atlanta Falcons hurt the Falcons fans. Like, what are you going to do to me that it's an abusive relationship, codependency here. So cautiously optimistic, but there's always that tick in the back of your mind that says, yeah, but the Carolina Panthers, the long and the short of it is, I'll make this podcast really quick. I think looking at your schedule, this is the most dangerous team that you will have played as far as looking up and down your schedule, knowing what we know now about the Baltimore Ravens. It was a different week one team, But
Sure.
still, we don't know how good they were week 1. And then the rest of your schedule is like, yeesh.
Yeah.
It also has a possibility to be the worst team you faced this year. That's the thing about Atlanta Falcons. They saved their season against the Washington Commanders and a team that was beat up and banged up at home that they should beat. And as Sam just posted on here, good to see you, Sam. We use Falcon as like a noun and a verb and a descriptor of falconing it up down here. So, be careful they don't falcon things up. That's how we use that. So nothing surprises you with this team.
It's called Billsy here. Like that was Billsy. That just happened. That was really Billsy. That wasn't supposed to go that way. Sort of in that vein though, like Greg said, having that early bye, I do think for a lot of teams that feels like a disadvantage. But in watching the games and preparing for this show and looking at this Falcons team, as a guy that's heavily invested actually in the Falcons in fantasy, I have to say, like, it's a team that I'm following, it's a team I'm trending on, but it is a little Jekyll and Hyde. And I think you're right. And I actually think that the early bye may have helped a young team to say, hey, there's a lot of good things that we're seeing on film, and we have this opportunity to be an explosive offense and to be a havoc-wreaking defense, but it is not staying consistent throughout games. And it's not staying consistent week to week, to your point. You just don't know what you're going to get. And so maybe slowing it down and saying, hey, these are the good things that are working. Let's build on those early in the season with this young team.
Yeah, and I think going into the Carolina game, they've staked their jobs. Just the coaching staff, the general manager, who's now in his 5th year and hasn't had a winning season, they've staked their jobs on Michael Penix Jr. And they go into that Carolina Panthers game and they threw the ball like 8 out of 11 times. Why? You've got a veteran offensive line, even with an injury or two, it's still a good offensive line. And then you got Bijan Robinson. What's quarterback's best friend? The running game. Okay. So why are you going down there and throwing? So between the missed field goals and the bad game planning, that game just was completely out of whack. They dominated a Minnesota Vikings team that is also kind of an enigma. And then a Commanders team who can be dangerous, and the Falcons have lost like 5 straight to them, but with a backup quarterback and Marcus Mariota at home, that's the game they had to win. And if they're 1-3 and lost to Dan Quinn, their former coach, and Marcus Mariota, a quarterback that quit on them, they lose that game, go 1-3 into the bye week, it would have gotten ugly down here, because it was really ugly after that Panthers game. They saved their season. It could have gone off the rails right there.
It's crazy what a week can do for a narrative.
Win fixes everything, right?
It really does, yeah.
So as we look at this here, and you look at, I'll start on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, it's been a running joke about the pass rush and the lack of pass rush and the inability to really get things going. You can't fault the team for the effort this offseason. You sign Leonard Floyd, you make your first round pick with Walker, you trade up for Pierce and make an aggressive trading away a future first. And although it hasn't been gangbusters, it has taken a material step forward. Where is that as far as the development? 2 very young guys, still waiting for a lot for them to be able to really prove out. But, heavy rotation on the front, seeing contributions. Anyamata is a guy that we've been a big fan of before, and we're actually, try to target to be able to pick somebody like that up when he was a free agent. Where are things with the development of all the investments and new pieces on that front?
The defense is so much farther ahead than they expected. It was going to get better because it couldn't get worse. So their base defense, they would come out. They keep like 9 defensive linemen, and they come out in a 2-man front. It's just, you want to hear me get pissed off? Let's talk about the Falcons defense last year. Their base defense was a 2-4-5 prevent, 2 down linemen, 2 stand-up edge, 5 defensive backs, and everybody is huge wide splits. The back safeties are 20 yards off the ball, and their whole idea is let's just try and not give up the big plays. Here's a crazy stat for you. I was just doing something on Caden Ellis, another one of those free agents. He came over the same time David Anyamata did, and they've both been huge hits for the Falcons. The Falcons are averaging 10 less plays on defense this year than they did last year. Over the course of 17 games, that is 3 complete fewer games that are played over the course of 17 games. The Falcons defense completely kicked the bucket the last month of the season. Well, they wouldn't by the same amount of snaps, they don't even have to play the last month of the season because they are getting up. They went from 31 to 6 in third down percentage against. Now, first week of Baker Mayfield. Okay, let's knock the rust off. Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's a really good offense, but first week, knocking the rust off. They've got J.J. McCarthy, who has played one quarter of good football in his career. That's the truth. He didn't play that much. And he played one good game against the Bears. Bryce Young, they gave up 30 points, but they only had like 240 yards of offense. There was a defensive score in there and just nonsense. And then Marcus Mariota without Terry McLaurin. They haven't been facing juggernauts, but the Falcons also have Will Levis's jersey in the Hall of Fame for having the best debut game of all time when they played the Titans a few years ago. So they're certainly capable of losing to teams like that, and they've been doing really, really well. That's the overall. We can talk individuals too if you want, Greg.
Yeah, there's a couple spots I want to point out. I did think it was interesting. Obviously, Aaron loves yard stats for comparing teams. I did see that they're the only team in the NFL not to allow 300 yards of offense in a game so far.
Yeah, 290 so again, like was the most, and I think that was Washington last week. They Falcons got up 2 scores, and they got really passive on one of the last drives. But then what's nice is even under Arthur Smith, the Falcons have always had and I've always just called it the F it, we're just going to run the ball button, because they couldn't pass with Marcus Mariota. They couldn't pass with Desmond Ridder, but God, they could run the ball. So after they climbed back within 1 score, they went on like a 13-play, 6-minute drive and just iced the game. I'm like, golly, that's a thing of beauty. Yeah. For old school football fans to just physically dominate the other team. It's one of the reasons we're psychotic about this game.
Real quick, if I could just insert myself with a couple defensive stats. They are first overall in defensive DVOA, which does, after week 4, start to compare. And it doesn't. So you talked about some of the matchups. It actually puts those into the calculation of how, and compares it, to that matchup. And they're first overall in defensive pass in DVOA, but they're also 4th in adjusted sack percentage. So not sack total, but when you exclude the throwaways and stuff like that, and some of the pressures there,
and how many fewer snaps they're playing. Like if there's fewer opportunities, the ratio that you have there makes sense.
This isn't the number 1 defense in the league. I don't think. I think they're too young. I mean, they've gone on a youth movement the last 2 years. We'll get to that
in a second.
It heavily weighs passing, right? And so running, they are not. They're like 19th or something like that. But it more heavily weighs passing because it's based on success rate, EPA, and stuff like that. But that's another conversation. But I think the pass defense has done so good that it heavily weighs it this early in the season.
Well, I mean, we talk about that back end. For the longest time, I was always jealous because I thought that Deion Jones was the kind of the modern, the modern linebacker of how I wanted linebackers to look in this day and age. And now, obviously, it's kind of Fred Warner and those other pieces, but it's awful close. Devon Diablo is like right there as just that like weapon all over the field, amazing in coverage, but can still come forward. And there's a lot of guys in the secondary I like, but seeing Diablo really like step into this role, I don't know that I saw that in Vegas. I don't know that I saw this level of player when he came over, but he was a guy in the draft that we liked, and the athleticism and everything there. Now seeing him turn into this full modern form is pretty exciting.
Caden Ellis is really good also. And he was brought over to be a pressure player and hasn't really been allowed to do that because Troy Anderson has not been able to stay healthy. So they went and signed Devon Diablo. Now, Nate Landman is playing okay for the Rams, and people are saying, why is Landman gone? Landman got a 1-year deal with $50,000 of guaranteed money. That's what the league thought of Landman after he played, and playing in Lake's system last year, Jimmy Lake's system last year, he was asked to cover acres and acres of space. He's just not fast enough. So the upgrade from Landman as a starter to Devon Diablo as a starter is one of the biggest upgrades across the whole freaking football league, as far as I'm concerned.
So at the back end, it's going to be hard not to just gush because we obviously spent a lot of time researching safeties, and there was a lot of people in our fan base wanting to see more investment there. And it's a whole thing that we didn't, and that we kind of stuck with Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop. And we took a shot at Derek Forrest as a, kind of a flyer, and ended up, Jordan Hancock ended up kind of going that direction later on. But two of the guys that we were constantly hammering draft boards and our mock drafts and our workups were both Xavier Watts and Billy Bowman. And seeing that they've stepped right in, obviously Jesse Bates, kind of the elder statesman and the leader of the overall. You have AJ Terrell when healthy, the high end corner. But having Watts come in immediately at safety, and Bowman, I don't know that I saw that like overhang nickel role, but he's stepping right into it. That is a really exciting combo to be able to have going forward there, and to hit on both of those. Yeah, the attention goes to the first round picks with the pass rushers. I think you guys might have done even better in the secondary with those two picks.
Bowman was brought in to be a physical presence from the nickel. He's basically, if he's not playing backup cornerback, not backup as in like backing somebody up, but I mean like backpedaling. If he's not in coverage, then he's in an outside linebacker spot. I mean, he's in the slot right there, and he has to set the edges and he has to be physical, and that's helped with the run defense. The run defense, I think, is better than the statistics will show, because again, the Commanders ran up a bunch of yards rushing. I think when the Falcons put their nose to it, they can stop the run. It hasn't been a priority. You can't always stop everything. They're not good enough to do that. So they've prioritized the pass, and they've been willing to give up 4 or 5 yards a carry at times. Watts has been really good as well. And the thing is, y'all mentioned James Pierce Jr. and the trade to get him and giving up a first round pick. Well, they got a first round pick. So they traded first round picks, a 26 pick for a 25 first round pick. And then they traded a second round pick for a third round pick. That's what people never, the national media never, ever, ever talks about it.
They just talk about giving up an extra
talk about
first. Yeah.
The second person in that trade was Xavier Watts,
who getting him in the third round. Virtually everyone had him as an early to mid second rounder.
We thought the Falcons might take him with that pick 46.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, if you had told me that they just sat there and took Xavier Watts at 46, that would have totally made sense. He was absolutely on our board at 54 or whatever our pick was at that spot.
Oh my God. I'm like, James Pierce Jr. and Xavier Watts for a first and a second might not sound quite as bad as you think.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. Let's flip it. I sort of teased Greg here this afternoon. I texted him and I was like, I think everybody thinks I have the more fun side of the ball, but maybe you do. But honestly, I think I do. I think I still win this one, Greg. And I think I have the more fun side of the ball, just because, like, if you were playing NBA or NFL Street or a game like that, or like what would NBA Jam would be for the NFL, you would want to be a team like the Atlanta Falcons, just in terms of top heavy, athletic type players, that the ceiling is so high and it's so much fun. But talk to us about this sort of Jekyll and Hyde of this overall offense, because it has big expectations. And I think nationally, everybody sort of bought into this. You're seeing Kyle Pitts finally become a thing. Everybody knows and respects what Bijan can be. And I think we saw enough from Penix Jr. in this last season to think, hey, he could be a guy that can do this in this offense and create some big explosive plays. But there is that other end of where it is still young and learning. Where is kind of the vibe on this offense out of, can it get close to that ceiling more consistently, or is it going to be more of a middle average offense with just high and low ends?
It's a great question, and it's questions that we ask every week on the Falcons podcast. And I think what it's come down to, and it's so easy to just blame one thing, because if you can fix one thing, then everything's fixed. But play calling has played a big issue into this. Sure. And part of it has also been, I don't know if it's the mentality of Michael Penix of being, I'm the starter now and I have to take care of the football. But what makes Michael Penix so dangerous, he's got a howitzer of a left arm. Mm-hmm. And it took him 4 games to throw the ball past 15 yards. Now, in his 3-game cameo last year, he led the NFL in that period in big time throws. It's like, dude, back them off. And if people want to say, well, Darnell Mooney, your speed guy, he hasn't been healthy, hasn't been playing. Brother, if your offense lives and dies because of Darnell Mooney, your offense sucks.
Yeah. I also think Drake London can do some things vertically down the field, right? Like
exactly. You know, again, a deep threat doesn't necessarily have to be faster than everybody else.
Yeah.
If I've got a 6'5" receiver out there one-on-one, I don't care if there's somebody in his hip pocket or not. Yeah. He's a threat, especially someone with a basketball background like Drake London.
Yeah.
You know, contested catches all the time. How fast is Mike Evans from the Buccaneers? He's not known as a burner.
Yeah. It is interesting. It is interesting that they're not pushing the ball down the field because it does feel like a strength of his. But then this is the same conversation that kind of we're having here in Bills Mafia, in that I don't know how many of those plays really exist in a lot of games. And I think one thing that Penix is doing really well here in that second year is the intermediate game.
Like if you're show it at least so. But literally, Aaron, they had like 2 passes in 3 games that had more than 15 air yards.
Yes.
And that can't happen. And then if you try and use the screen game when everybody's packing the line of scrimmage, you got no chance. So it's simple. You say simple, but football in essence is a simple game. You know, bigger, faster, stronger usually wins. Back them off, run the ball, loosen up the back end of the defense with a couple shots. And the offense looked the way you expected to look when they played the Commanders. Mm-hmm. They overpowered the Vikings. They could run up and down on them. Now, against the Panthers last year, they rushed for about 250 yards. And Bijan and Tyler Algier combined for like 14 touches in that Carolina Panthers game. And they want to say, oh, well, you know, that was a little weird. That game got away from us. You got behind. I'm like, no, it was like 10-0 at halftime. And you had the ball in the third quarter. That's still plenty of time to follow your game plan of running the ball. So some of it, I feel like it's just inexperience with a second-year offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
They showed this last year. Game 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers was a disaster. Yeah. It was a disaster. Next, and then they self-scout and they fix the little things. Okay, wait a minute. Maybe we shouldn't run the same play every time we're in this formation. NFL guys might pick up on this. You know, so a lot of it is self-scouting and self-correcting on that. And I believe they're capable of doing that. And again, when you talk about the weapons that you will face, this is as dynamic an offense that you will face all season when it comes to the weapons. Now, does that mean that they will execute? Does that mean they will game plan correctly? We're not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and it feels like, in watching the tape, it feels like as good as that high end for Penix can be, it feels like there's a lot of opportunities when he puts the ball out there for there's still a lot of inaccurate balls, and they're not always balls that get in trouble. But for the Buffalo Bills this week, we're talking about, hey, they need to get more hands on the balls. We haven't had many pass breakups. They haven't had interceptions and stuff from the DBs. I'm watching the tape thinking, hey, there's going to be some opportunities to get your hands on some balls in these games, even as good as those skill positions are. But in talking about these skill positions, I want to kind of rotate into a couple guys specifically here, but it seems like, for years we've heard what a talent in terms of freak athlete Kyle Pitts is, and it just hasn't gotten going. And we've kind of dealt with that in a less of an athlete in Dalton Kincaid here, and the expectations of a guy coming in and really changing your offense. But it does seem, and you see it on the tape, his ability to be more productive with Michael Penix seems like that's really kind of like push this whole idea that maybe Penix is the franchise guy, because he's kind of gotten Pitts going, and there's a relationship there that we can make and be special. Is that really kind of what is, when he's playing well, it seems like the offense is that high ceiling of the offense. When he's not, it seems like everything's on Bijan to get going.
Yeah, and you talk about, Kyle Pitts, the unicorn, and in that draft, my goodness, the players.
I wanted him so bad. I won't lie. I wanted it.
The one they passed on to take Kyle Pitts, look at the next 7 guys, and you're talking about, man, there's like 4 Hall of Famers in there. It's tough, but I've always, one of my biases is in my scouting history, and you guys don't know my background that much, but I've scouted football players for a long time. Is one of my personal biases. I like big receivers are always open. I can throw it to them. Until I watched Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder trying to throw to Kyle Pitts, you still have to be accurate. If I underthrow it, it goes, there's a smaller defender right there. If I overthrow it, he never has a chance. That said, some of this has been on Kyle Pitts as well. You know, the effort in the injury, but he wasn't playing that well before he got hurt in his second year. Year
when
3
you're a
he's coming
unicorn,
back. Is he
things
ever
have come
really
easy to you
fully
your whole
healthy?
life.
Yeah.
Year 4, he didn't play all that well, but I tell you what, guys, I went to training camp. I watched him. He's been playing golf with Michael Penix all summer. He looked different. He looked different. When he's out there running, he doesn't necessarily look. He might be able to run a 4.4, which is, that's flying. Don't get me wrong. But relatively speaking, his explosive combine numbers, pro day numbers weren't elite. They were, like 30-inch vertical jump, not like 42. An okay shuttle. His lateral movement wasn't great. Watching him at training camp this year, I'm like, dude, he's got some wiggle to him. Yeah. He's got some burst to him now. He looks like a different guy. He's just turned 25. Out of all of this, he's younger than Michael Penix. Just turned 25 years old. He just watched half a dozen tight ends make big-time contracts. He's in his fifth-year option. He's got his quarterback. He's got 1 year on his deal. He's healthy. He looks as explosive as ever, man. If he doesn't do it this year, he ain't ever going to do it. And the thing is, it's like, oh, just in time to hit free agency. No. This is why the franchise tag was invented. If he has a big season, you tag his ass.
Yeah. And then the last one I want to get in here on the offense, obviously, Bills fans are going to be kept up all week here over Bijan Robinson and the type of player that he is. He's obviously that game-wrecking player that no matter how this team is playing, he can burst the game and keep them in a game single-handedly. And you look at this offense and like statistically, they're kind of an average run team, I think, right now, early in the season. I think they struggle at times against some bigger defensive lines, but I don't think they'll have that issue against the Bills. I think it actually sets up pretty well for them to get in some space against the Bills here. But you look at, Bijan Robinson right now between the run targets or between the run game and pass targets, he's getting like 67% of the touches for the Atlanta Falcons right now this season. So this is an offense that absolutely runs through him. Talk about what a special player he's been and just what watching him is like, because like we have James Cook and that's special. And I think maybe even we underappreciate him going into this year. But every time I have this conversation and people are like, oh, is James Cook a top 5 running back? I get in that list and like Bijan is like, it's like Saquon, Bijan. And then I get down there and it's like, wait, no, James Cook's probably like 8th. And he's really special. So I can't imagine week in and week out getting to watch Bijan.
I'm terrified of
Bijan, he's changed his name back again. So
yeah, it's like Tyrod.
Tyrod.
Yeah.
He's I'm a child of the 80s. So, the best open field runner that I've ever seen is Barry Sanders.
Yeah.
As far as making guys miss in the open field, Bijan's the best guy I've seen since Barry Sanders of making guys miss in the open field. If you get him in space, one-on-one, forget about it. You're not tackling him. And like Barry, you'll be lucky to touch him. I mean, not just not tackle him.
I think Saquon Barkley agrees with you. They asked him they said, oh, how's it feel to be the best tackle breaker? He said, hold on, Bijan Robinson's the best.
Yeah. I think and Saquon might be a better tackle breaker, but he'll do it more with, I'm going to get this guy off balance. And then when you're off balance, I'm strong enough to pull through an arm tackle. The guys aren't touching. You better bring 3 people after Bijan. And Aaron, I might blow your mind on this. What we said we wanted out of Bijan is I don't want them to run him into the ground. And that's what's nice about having Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier is a top 20 back in this league, and he's going to get paid like one after this season. Just wait and see. Bijan's actually averaging less touches just by like 1 this year than last year. So he's being more efficient. And where he's being more efficient is in the passing game. So he's on track right now to be like the second all-time scrimmage yards at like 2,400 yards. So, and he's doing it like at 20.5 touches per game.
Yeah, which is an extension of the run game for you guys in a lot of ways, because your run game is just space, right? Get linemen into space, and you're doing that in the passing game.
And then bring in the hammer, bring in Tyler if you can get a lead, if you need to close it. And Tyler, we want Tyler in there banging his head through the wall. I don't want Bijan in there doing that. So the hope was, I don't want more touches for Bijan. He had plenty of touches. 340 touches in a season is plenty. That's 20 per game.
Yeah.
I want them to be more efficient. I want him to get more touchdowns. I want him to get more big plays. He has. Through 4 games, he has.
Yeah, 10 per game for Algier is a perfect compliment to be able to take those between the tackles touches.
Yep.
So, all right, Scott, I know it's your first time here, but each time we put our guest on the spot, we ask him, what do you expect to see here this weekend? Give us a score prediction. Let us know what kind of game we're expecting to see.
I see the over-under, and, I don't have to read the disclaimer, do I, about, gambling and stuff, but just I like to look at the over-under as kind of a prediction. I think it's like at 50, 51
yeah, 49 and a half, 50.
And I look at the Bills' scores. I'm like, okay, there's been some high-scoring games here. I'm like, what's the Bills' strength? What is their strength on offense? Apologies. What is their strength on offense?
Running the ball.
Running the ball.
Yeah.
What is their weakness on defense?
Tackling.
Stopping the run. Okay. If the Bills are successful running the ball, the Falcons are successful running the ball, how are you going to get to 50 points? This could be a 2.5-hour game.
Bijan could run off a couple of 60-yarders real quick. Yeah.
But what I see is a lower scoring game.
Sure.
A fast moving game because there is going to be a lot of running. And I think the Falcons have to gamble against a run on this one because, no offense to Bills fans, and I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't know, your skill players on offense, your receivers, they don't scare a lot of people relative to the teams you're going to face. Relative to how good the Bills are, if I look at the Eagles and I see Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, okay, both of those guys are probably better than you. I see Justin Jefferson and I see T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. I see these guys. It's Josh Allen and James Cook and Dalton Kincaid. I've got to stop the big guys to stop the Bills. So I think the Falcons need to sell out a little bit, which could open up things on the backside. But I expect it to be a heavily running game, a fast-moving game. And I don't know. I feel like the Falcons have a chance to win this game, but, as a longtime Falcons person, they've lost a hell of a lot more than they've won. So I'll stick with the Bills and say something like, golly, if I said 27-24, that would be right at the over, wouldn't it? So let's go a little bit less than that and say something crazy like 1917 Bills in this. But I think it should be a throwback style of game, smash mouth. And if it becomes a shootout, I like the Falcons, honestly. I do. I think they've got more weapons.
I like that.
That's fair. No,
Collins throwback style to match the jerseys. Yeah,
that's right. It's going to be aesthetically pleasing game.
It's annoying at how big a deal the Falcons make about the red helmets and black jerseys because they know everybody loves them.
Yeah.
I actually think, for God's sakes,
I don't think it's their best look. I think the best look is the 90s, just like the black uniform, the silver pants. I think that's super clean though. That 90s look is.
Right, I love the red helmets, man. Yeah. I love the red helmets.
They're nice.
I'm not even a Georgia Bulldogs guy.
Yeah.
All right, man. We appreciate you, Scott. Let the folks know where they can find more of your work and what else you got coming up next.
Yeah, hit me up. You can find me on X, Twitter, Twix at Scout Kennedy, and then YouTube's really easy. Just youtube.com/Scott Kennedy. So with the Monday night game, I do morning shows. So the next time I will be on is Monday morning at 8:30. Come say hey. And I told y'all this before, and I want to give a shout out to the Bills Mafia. Y'all know how hard it is to get your first 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's hard. It took me longer to get to 1,000 than it did to get me from 1,000 to 5,000. It's hard. And I did a show with the Buffalo show like this 5 years ago with Bills Mafia, and y'all said, hey, let's go support our boy over here. And I think I picked up like 200 subscribers in the next 24 hours from Bills Mafia. Awesome. I got a bunch of Senior Bowl stuff over there that y'all can watch. That's how they found me, was with Spencer Brown. So I'm a huge fan of Bills Mafia and them helping me get to where I am in this business. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's great to hear. Yeah, the Bills fans are voracious. Their appetite has no limit for good content. So that's awesome. They come and check you out. And obviously, this is great. We'll look forward to having you on again sometime.
I appreciate it. Thanks, y'all.
All right. Good luck this weekend, man.
Scott. All right. Always fun to be able to bring on new folks, guys we haven't heard from before.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I'll go first, Aaron. Scott's prediction's pretty close to where mine was. I don't think his numbers are crazy there. I had it at I think is going to be some movement, but I do think we see a couple more stops here. So I had it at like 23-16. I think that it's right there in that range. I think that the Bills have enough to get things going, but I don't think he's crazy that, me saying 16, I'm talking multiple field goals instead of touchdowns. And if they get touchdowns on those drives and you see a Drake London or a Kyle Pitts or, God forbid, a Bijan Robinson get going and you get multiple touchdowns going, all of a sudden, I don't think he's wrong. I think that they have the weapons as those skill positions that are tough to match up with. This is going to take a really, really strong performance. They're not seen overall as that kind of team, but God, there's a lot of talent on this roster.
There is a lot of talent on this roster, but I do think there is a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde experience to this roster, but we just played a team like that. I think the New England Patriots are very much that. We caught the high end of a New England Patriots team. And we saw that when you matched the high end of one team and maybe the struggles are lower end of a good team, you can get caught in a game like we saw. I don't think the Bills want that again. And that very well could be how this plays out. I think it's similar. I actually think Atlanta can attack the Bills in some ways offensively that are probably more challenging than what Drake May was able to do. I don't think you're going to see Penix making the throws Drake May made, but I think that they could more methodically move the ball up and down the field.
Like he's dangerous in the pocket. He doesn't have the movement skills May does, but obviously the Patriots don't have a Bijan Robinson.
Right. And I don't think he's going to make these like crazy, oh my God, Penix broke the back of the defense by making a play and extending it, stuff like that. I think there's a bit of overstatement of what the Patriots were able to do to the Bills. They didn't make it look easy. They had incredible throws, right? I don't think Penix is going to come out and do that, but I think they have the ability to maybe attack the zone and move the ball up and down the field and get him involved, get Bijan involved in that passing game. So I think they're going to score some points, but I do think the Josh Allen took that for real, how that offense looked in the last performance. I don't think he liked how that felt. I think that whole offense. So I have faith that the offense is going to bounce back. And I think the defense did do good enough in that game to win. And I think that they've taken that a little salty too. So I expect them to give up some points, but I don't think it'll get crazy. I've got it 28-21. So I think it's just under, right? You said it was 49.5.
Yep.
So it's just under, but I could see it being a 28-24. Like you could add a field goal here and I wouldn't be shocked, but I do think the Bills are going to go down there. Could feel sloppy, a little bit tighter than we want it to be at start. But I think this is that typical time of season. A couple of years ago, we saw the Bills drop that game to the Broncos. Like we see these types of moments in a season. I think they're kind of in one of those right now. So we'll still probably see some struggles in the run game. We'll see Bijan break one that really is frustrating and we're all pissed about. And someone's going to be jumping in the air, missing a tackle as he leaves them in the dust. But I think ultimately the Bills are a better team. I think they're in a spot where they can rebound from that loss here early and really put it to a team that they probably should. But you can't sleep on the Falcons, man. I think it's a better team than New England, or a more dangerous team than New England when they're playing at their best. So the Bills better have learned from this last week.
I will say one area that the Patriots did have I think material advantage versus the Falcons is coaching. I do think that Vrabel is a net positive, a real differentiator. And I honestly, I really had hopes for Raheem Morris because I thought he went through a really smart kind of internship after he got that opportunity in Tampa Bay. Was so young in his career. And a lot of guys that's not fair to judge them on that. But then going through the other opportunities, like even like coaching offense with McVay and like the different stops he made before getting into that role, I really thought this was going to be a good spot for him. And there's been some questions, man. Like it's just sometimes that innate game management piece just is not there for everybody. And I do think that between maybe some spots there to catch him, I think that you can confuse Penix. So I'd really like to see, we need to see Babich and McDermott on their game and making it challenging there.
And even not confusing him, like I was saying to Scott, like he still throws some balls that are going to be like not even on base defense, that are going to be opportunities where I think some guys can maybe make some plays to shut people up. Because I think people are right. Bills are not making plays on the ball. I think this week we'll have an opportunity on some of those throws that he makes.
Well, and I think that there's some metrics that the Falcons offensive line looks really good, and those are real. Like they've done that for those 4 games. But Scott brought it up, like we're going to find out how much of that was them and how much of that was the 4 teams they went against. I do think that he's not the most mobile. He does like to hold the ball sometimes. I think you can get to him. He's the kind of guy that if we get those pressures, this has to be a strong pressure to sack conversion week. We've got to get him on the ground. We got to be able to do that.
I got some good ones for you here on pressure. So clean pocket, he is 67.4% completion percentage, 700 yards, 8.2 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. But under pressure, he is 44.8%. So you're dealing with what's that 24%, 23% drop when under pressure. So it's there. The problem that I see is he's actually very accurate versus zone. And so if you're going to sit back and play traditional Bills zone, he's a much better against zone than he is against man. But if they can run zone but get the pressure with the forward that they have been able to, I think that's been an interesting thing here this week as we're looking through the data and seeing how the Bills have been actually doing pressure wise. They're there. It's the marrying pressure and coverage. Like you see coverage on some plays, but it's not marrying up with pressure. I think they just got to get that. But I think they're going
a weird amount of those fluky plays, like the Daquan Jones play. That's a perfect play by Daquan Jones, and Drake May just makes an insane play, like as he's scrambling backwards and falling down. Like, 9 times out of 10, actually take that back, like 7 times out of 10, that's a sack. The other 2, it's an incompletion.
Intentional grounding.
Or intentional grounding. And somehow he found Stephon Diggs while he was like, desperately scrambling backwards to that. Just some of those plays, like that's, Daquan Jones did everything right. Like that's as fast as you can move and as immediate as you can have pressure, and the quarterback just somehow made a better play. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
All right. So big shout out to our guys over at Southern Tier Brewing Company. Appreciate them. It's a ton of fun. Make sure you're checking out What's Brewing with all the good stuff that they have going on. Even some of I got the caramel pumpkin, imperial pumpkin ale. I had one in the fridge ready to go, but I'm only going to crack them on victory. So I really need one that's coming Monday night.
I was going to say, yeah, come on, man. You don't want to leave those in the fridge too long. Actually, those will actually age really well. If you just leave them on that shelf out of the sunlight. But
all right. So where are you at on some of the injury concerns here?
I mean,
do we have to have a Matt Milano conversation?
I honestly, there is a couple people at school pickup on Monday that are big Matt Milano fans, and rightfully so, they should be. And I went up to him first thing, was just like, I think it's over. Like, I don't know. And I think you saw the defeat in Sean McDermott's answer in the press conference when asked about how hard it is to plan to have him available, knowing like he is so impactful. And I think I said it during the game that Matt Milano, like the defense looked different post Matt Milano, and I think when I'm watching the film, I think that stands true still after the fact. And so you want him there, right? Like Sean McDermott believes in him. He's spoken highly of him, but availability is the best ability, and it's just he cannot. And that's tough. And honestly, like Ed Oliver's got to get healthy here, because he's had a similar, I was thinking about him the other day, like he's had such an interesting path here with the Bills of being a high draft pick, not living up to it early, having moments, getting an injury, having some more moments, getting an injury, having some big plays, and then like he finally has a breakthrough performance and suffers another injury. And it's like, is this going to be his story too, where the Bills just get these guys that flash these high end abilities and then just struggle to stay on the field? And the problem is with the Ed Oliver, you look back at his last injury last year with that being an ankle, you wonder how, it took him weeks to come back and play to the level he was.
I will say I'm at least pleased that they have been ultra conservative and patient, and realized that, like, hey, we let him kind of rush back when he was like 80-90%, and then he never got right. So I do respect the fact that they held out this long, and that if he's ready to go back, I'm going to trust that, like, hey, he like 4 full weeks off, and now having that 5th week of prep beforehand, that we're going to be like 6 weeks removed from the last game. Like, I think that's the way to do this, that we need that back. But, we've obviously had plenty of debates of like the speed and potential and aggression of a Dorian Williams versus like the brain, but, obviously not that quick twitch that Shaq Thompson, used to have. I don't love the fact that we're going to have to find that out. I didn't plan on needing to like scour like struggling other teams for linebacker trade targets, but like, do I need to go look for linebacker trade targets?
No, actually, I think Shaq's gonna be fine enough.
Functional
In this defense. And the way it sounded this week was that Milano didn't seem like a long-term serious thing. Now it's a matter of how long can he be relied upon when he does come back. Well, is it the Peck thing that's going to continue to come up? Like, did they rush him back? Well, I don't know the extent of what the behind the scenes are on that. But it sounded like at least they didn't think that this would require the IR designation. So you'd have to think that he's coming back here in the next month, which will make you feel a little bit better. He was playing well.
He's still incredibly impactful.
He's still playing very well.
It's just really hard to trust we're going to get him for the 3-4 straight playoff games.
Yes, and I am interested to see what they're going to do with Dorian Williams here going forward, like balancing some of that. And then another conversation sort of on this here to help, or I don't know if it actually maybe should be a William Mattar pump the brakes, or if it should be a William Mattar here to help. So I'm kind of in between, and maybe you can tell me. I think I know where you're at. I think you're pretty dead solid that it's a here to help. But our friend Sal Capaccio was making kind of a good point on the radio the other day that I wanted to talk about here, because every time we do the show and we're talking about the here to help and all these things and who's coming back, and you and I have had this conversation too, is the Maxwell Hairston. And he is going to come back in, and that's going to fix the biggest perceived problem right now, which is cornerback 2, which I don't disagree is the biggest problem. But Sal was bringing up a great point of that it's probably unfair to Max Hairston the way this fan base is sort of pressuring of like, because he's available to be put back on the practice window, that it like we're waiting for that to happen. We're waiting every day for that news to come. The Bills could take their time with that, and then once they activate him, they could take the full time with that. We could not see Max Hairston till Thanksgiving ish or so, and that would just be the first like, hey, now he's available to us on the roster. Then we don't know how they're even going to manage he hasn't had reps and stuff like that. And so I just think there's a bit of pressure being built by the fan base that he's going to come back and we need him immediately. And I think he will be the answer. I just don't know when it's going to be or how long it's going to be. And I think the team has to juggle that also internally of like, I think they know Trey's not the answer, and they're looking at Dorian Strong's injury doesn't help. So there's a bit of like, hey, we probably want to rush this back, but also it's a fine balance. You don't want to rush him back if he's not ready. So where are you with Max Hairston? I think I know.
Hi, I'm fan base.
Yeah.
I won't even shy away from this. It's 100% me wish casting, because I know what we need for it to be.
Yeah, and the resources we have to do something.
Yeah, correct. The alternatives, the alternatives are like, we took our biggest, and we didn't have a ton of free agency money to spend. Yeah. Our biggest investment available was the first round pick. We used it on the fastest guy in the draft at the position we needed to give us the options to match up and play man defense and, not get roasted on these crossing routes and not have somebody who can put their foot in the ground and break on a ball. We're getting beat on some of the other plays anyways. I'd rather get beat on aggression than get beat just on lack of ability to catch up or to make a play, because you have to give so much cushion to protect yourself. So I openly admit that my expectation of here to help is wish casting of what I know the team needs for him to be. Now, in fairness to that, I also think it's a week 10 kind of thing. Yeah. That's my target, is that I think we see them open the window ideally right before the bye week. So you get some of that time to get him up to speed using that 2-week window of the bye week. And then you can even go one more. So he doesn't have to do week 8. You can get him there through there. And then leading up to week 9, you can come in. We obviously, I'm going to read the rotation of Trey White and Dorian Strong as the acknowledgement by the defensive coaching staff and the team that like, oh, okay, we need to start preparing because he's not going to be able to do it. Like, we have to start preparing. So you don't rotate you don't rotate a cornerback, period. Like, that's just not, we've seen it once in the entire 9-year run of the Bills. And that was when they had no options and they were just rotating between lessers of evil. So you don't do that with a 6th round pick unless like, all right, we're kind of desperate. We need to figure out what our options are here. So I am of full expectation that when he's ready, it's not. I saw some people talking about like, well, we know how this team handles young players. Like maybe they won't even play Max Harrison. Dude, hell, what the hell are you talking about? Like he's going to play, and he's going to now. Whether he works out and whether he is the answer we need him to be, I don't know. Nobody else knows either. He was drafted there for a reason, and whether you had him 24th or 42nd, like he was a high end pick on everyone's board. He wasn't our stereotype of who we normally, the kind of player we normally see, but I kind of like the fact that they were going to try for something different. He is going to be he is going to be our answer. We will see if he's the answer.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see. It's a lot to, I just think that, to me, it was nice to hear Sal kind of push back on I think we all agree to a lot of the points you made of maybe the pressure on him to be it immediately and to come in and be that immediate answer. I think we need to give him the grace of being a developmental rookie who missed his entire summer. And like, even when he comes back, like there's going to be some plays. It doesn't mean he's going to settle into this position. Look at how Cole Bishop, I think Cole Bishop's trending in a really positive way. It could take some time. And so I see the high end athleticism. I see the path to being that guy and all that stuff. I just want fans to give him a grace period of don't put pressure on it to happen too soon. And when it does happen, keep your expectations reasonable of where he's at.
I'm confident Bills Mafia will be reasonable.
We'll not do that. We won't.
Very reasonable.
That's why I'm
patient.
Here.
Very understanding.
That's my niche. My niche is.
I mean, that's what Bills fans are known for: is patience, understanding, cool, calm, and collected, managing expectations.
If people weren't that way, I wouldn't have a gig. There would be no need for niche-y people like me to be like, "Hey, pump the brakes on that."
All right, guys.
What's producer Colin got for us tonight?
We are going to bring up our man, producer Colin, to ask us the best questions in the chat. You got one last chance here to get anything else in there. Let us know. Colin, how we doing?
Good, guys. How are you?
Good. It's I needed a new game to move on to. I was struggling, wallowing in Drake May related self-pity.
Yeah, shout out real quick to Scott and his Falcons fans that he brought with him. There's still 30 of you guys that are tuning in, so shout out to the Atlanta fans.
That's awesome. Very
joining
cool.
Cover1
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, very active in the chat as well. So thank you, Falcons fans, for that. We'll start with a question from AJ. He asks, if Brandon Beane were to make a move at the deadline to bolster a position group, what would you want it to be?
First of all, hi AJ. How are you?
AJ, miss you, buddy.
Yeah, man. Hope you're doing well. I think the hot answer for everybody is corner. For that, I'm assuming that the chat is blowing up with that, but I think it would be wide receiver for me.
I don't
want to get on the wide receiver train. I'm not jumping on, but I'm saying like if you're gonna make I think Greg just said it pretty well of what the answer at like, are you gonna get a corner has a higher ceiling potential than the first round pick you? Yeah.
I hate that this is my answer because it's not the spot there. So if you ask me, so AJ's question, if Brandon Beane were to make a move at the deadline to bolster a position group, what would you want it to be? So for me, I do it in reverse order.
Oh, sure. Want it to be, yes. Okay.
But what position do I think you could make the most impact? You talk about the Scott talked about like the move from the previous linebacker to Devon Diablo and like how big of a gap that was. I'm really sad that I kind of think our biggest gap might be a upgrade over Taylor Rapp. Like I didn't expect that to be my answer. I thought he was the one I felt better about, and he was tolerable last year. He's never been consistent, but it was tolerable because there were so many splash plays. So like the missed tackles, the friendly fire, the out of position, the like lack of elite high end speed was okay because he just created so much havoc and created so many splash plays that it netted out. And it was like, hey, yeah, it's a trade-off, but like he gets us the ball back and he makes those, all those 4-point tackles that he had, like coming up clutch in those moments where he saved us from a long touchdown and it became a field goal, or breaking up a play in the end zone. And we're just not seeing those now, or not nearly as many. And that the other flaws are still there. The missed tackles are still there. The out of position is still there. A step late is still there. In that, I think an elite receiver would be awesome, but those are really hard to get. I don't think it's crazy that linebacker is probably a sneakier answer than people realize, because banking on a healthy run for Matt Milano probably sounds hopeful. But I'm just sad that I felt pretty good. I was worried about the Cole Bishop side. Now I'm kind of cautiously optimistic about Bishop, and now I'm worried about Taylor Rapp.
I don't know if I'm worried about Rapp yet. I think the missed tackle conversation on Rapp is a little overstated and just more of a sample size issue. And I think some of those issues that we're seeing with the DBs in the run game, especially, I actually think is a issue of in front of them. Linebacker issue actually is quite a bit of it, and getting to that second level. I think Rapp will settle in here as the year goes. I think some of it is playing with Cole. I think Cole is settling. I'm actually above cautiously optimistic for Cole Bishop. I'm seeing a lot of good things from him. That missed tackle stands out, I think, a lot to people over the week, and chasing Stephon Diggs on there, but he had a lot of good plays. I think the safety is coming along a little bit. The reason I say wide receiver, though, is because I think those are also the guys that come available on the expiring deals. And like, there's so many of them around the league that teams. So I think that there is a big potential gap to get like an expiring deal on a kind of maybe not a superstar, but a guy that has carries a big name, that maybe he's trending the wrong way, but carries a big name. I just don't know what safeties are out there. I haven't really looked at like who's on a 1-year deal for safety. There's not a ton of these guys in the league. Like, safety position's not as deep as maybe say a wide receiver position is. And I think linebacker's probably that way too.
Yeah, I'm going to spend a minute looking at some linebacker spots, because obviously linebacker's also an easier position to trade for, because it's not necessarily an elite premium
spot
position. So if you have a struggling team with maybe a guy,
we can bring Dotson back from Miami.
you have somebody on a maybe a losing team on an expiring deal. Maybe you have a little bit that direction, something. I don't know. We could find something.
I'm sure I think ultimately the Bills are not going to make tons of moves. They're pretty strapped up right now in terms of.
It's going to have to be very reasonable, cheap things like that. Yes. It's honestly a lot of the buzz online after watching the Saints game the previous week was on Rashid Shaheed. And the reason I actually was reasonably into it is like, you could get him for like $2.5 million. Like, you could. That one takes like just a couple little tweaks and you could actually make that work. So it's like, well, if they were going to do something there, he's a returner, but he could play wide receiver. Has that again?
Speed. I don't think that's a one that like moves that.
No, that's a little painting around the edges. That's nothing crazy.
So you're saying we can't do like a AJ Brown one?
I honestly no. I don't even. Now we're like so far into the season, I don't even think we genuinely could
take him on.
Do that.
They got to get him out of here. They got to get him.
Yeah, like I'm gonna.
Is that the first time there's not actually money in the banana stand?
There's not a lot. There's a little. There's like like very few bananas. Very, very few bananas.
Yeah, I think if we see some injuries here over the next couple of weeks, that'll ramp me more into this trade. I'm not in the trade world. Yeah, I think the Bills like the guys on their roster and the plan, and are going to be more patient with the return of the guys suspended, with the turn of some of the guys that are hurt, and banking on their original plan for the season. It would work out better than it has.
All right, what's next?
All right, next we got AJ again with another question. He's asking for your guys' thoughts on Greg Rousseau and how he's performed through 5 weeks. I have some stats for you here. Rousseau has 2 sacks, 12 pressures, 10 defensive stops, and 2 batted passes so far.
I'll jump in real quick because I think I pumped up Greg Rousseau just as much as any content creator out there this year in terms of like, I thought he was going to take that step into becoming an elite defensive end, and he hasn't yet. I will take sort of an L there. Like, it hasn't started as much as I would have liked to start this year. I think there has been some injury stuff that he's been working through here early in the season, but I also think that he just came off his best game of the season. Like, he just had a game that gave me the kind of hope of, that's the guy I wanted to see the last 4 weeks. This is the guy that I know that he can be. If he plays like he played in this last game, I think he's going to have the type of season that we wanted. And when you look at it, he's still a top 10 rushing edge in the NFL. Like, he's still doing a really good job doing that. And he is producing more and more pressures and stuff as we go here and we ramp up through the season. I think that his game is going to be benefited from the return of Ogunjobi and the return of Hoyt, and then being able to move some of those guys around. But I think he's trending in the right way after kind of stumbling out of the gates.
Yeah, you're spot on. I think that, we were hoping we would take another leap up and that he would go from like the really good tier to the elite tier. Yeah. And he hasn't. He just hasn't. Like, he has not taken that step. No one with a straight face could argue that he's done that. But I do think that just because he hasn't leaped into that elite tier doesn't mean that he's not really, really good. Like,
or invisible. I've heard a lot of like, he's invisible, and he's still making plays out.
No, he's still an elite run defender who contributes as a pass rusher. And we were hoping he would become an elite run defender who was also an elite pass rusher. And he hasn't been. And maybe he won't ever be. Like, maybe that's just not where he's going to end up. Maybe he's just going to be good and a contributing pass rusher and an elite run defender. I'm hopeful that we can see more of that, but we'll see. I'm still waiting to see the full complement of our defensive line and all the other pieces together, and that potential. We talked about it before, that when I can have like that defensive line compress the pocket in that way, when we have everybody available and all the rotation pieces, bringing back Ed Oliver, Larry Ogunjobi, Michael Hoyt, and still having Bosa, Rousseau, and the guys that are there now. And now what we found in Deion Walker. I think I'm still waiting to see that before I pass judgment. As an FYI, I think I found my first legitimate target that would make sense looking through some of the losing teams, aging player who's still really good, movable, reasonable contract, probably isn't a part of their future. The Giants, Bobby Okereke.
I do like him as a player.
People ask me about DeMario Davis with the Saints. His contract is not doable, and he is like that. That would be like the Bills trading away probably even more than Matt Milano. Like, what he is to that locker room, he's going to retire a Saint. Like, he's never going to wear another jersey. He's going to retire as a Saint.
Yeah. Back to the Groot conversation a little bit when you talked about hoping that he would become an elite edge rusher. I don't know if you knew this, but AJ Epinesa is at least starting the season as an elite edge rusher, with the second among edge rushers with 20% of snaps. He is second in pass rush productivity, which measures how often you rush the pressure and like how effective you are getting to pressures, hits, hurries, and stuff like that. So AJ Epinesa, and again, another guy that kind of flashed in this last game here. And so you're seeing a nice rotation with Bosa, I think is like 10th on that list or something. He's in that top or 8th. Eighth. And so you're seeing a nice rotation, and Greg Rousseau's down there, but he's down there with guys like Rashawn Gary and some like other good pass rushers that maybe haven't been off to the best start this year, but as a collective unit, they're actually doing really nice on the edges, getting some pressure.
Well, I think I'm not alone. I think a lot of Bills fans kind of envision it like, all right, well, if we get a step forward from Javon Solomon, when Michael Hoyt comes back from suspension, AJ Epinesa won't have to play anymore. And it's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
We want AJ Epinesa to play. And the fact that we're going to go from Javon Solomon, who has not taken a second-year step, he's fine. He's fine rotational player. He does some special team stuff. He's fine. He is not a contributing player on defense. That step we're going to take forward from him to Michael Hoyt is going to be a leap that is going to step forward. And then you talk about the going from a Zion Logue or Fedarian Mathis or whoever we have as that rotation with Jordan Phillips, that becomes Larry Ogunjobi. How many fans have written off Larry Ogunjobi just confuses the crap out of me. Like, he is a good player. Like, his last 4 years in this style of defense, he had 20.5 sacks. Like, he is a contributing nice player that is going to play. And then at Oliver, like, bringing those pieces back, I need to see that. And then, like you said, when you want to marry up coverage, give me a guy back there with crazy twitch that can stick his foot in the ground if we get pressure, that can close on a ball and knock it away or make a play on a ball or catch up if they have to launch one. I think it's there. So, hey, AJ, miss you, bud.
All right, 2 more quick ones for you. First, Patton just asked, who is your pleasant surprise player through the first 5 weeks of the season?
It's easy.
Oh, he's going to get it.
He has played really well.
No one can be more pleasant than my darling large human.
I don't even know if I could put him in this category. But Kincaid is becoming
great call.
Everything that everyone told me he was going to be for this offense.
Literally the Spencer Brown timeline. Like, needed to disappoint us long enough that people jumped off the boat that third year spike, you know, we weren't ready for it.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I got a little offended when Scott was like, all you have to do is stop like Cook, and then he like kind of like sighed through and like, oh, they also have Kincaid. Of like, did you just watch what he just like, you know? And he hasn't arrived yet to the other people, but
small sample, but some of those like metrics of where he is on some of those charts are like the yards per route run and the quarterback rating when targeted. He's like above Amon-Ra St. Brown and Puka Nacua. People are like, holy crap.
He was already doing some of those things, but he checked, I think, the boxes of the public calling out that he received over the offseason. Yeah. Like, he's physical, he's getting into the blocking, like he's doing all the stuff that Bean said, and now it's like, it's all coming together. And so a very pleasant surprise. Probably again, more than pleasant.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, and then final question, Aaron. I don't know if you've gotten this before, if you've been told that
I haven't been hit with this one. I saw it earlier.
So this was a Falcons fan that said, is it just me or does Aaron kind of look like Baker Mayfield?
I don't have the gap. Baker has the iconic like gap. You know what it is I look like a pretty average white guy.
Like,
and so a lot of people find commonality for me of looking like other pretty super average looking white guys. I think Baker hits that
with the facial hair too.
With the facial hair, I honestly get more Josh Allen, like or like a Timu Josh Allen or a Josh Allen if he took the Captain America in reverse, the Captain America treatment in reverse, stuff like that is more. I get more than
it's so my favorite.
Free super soldier serum, Steve Rogers.
Yes,
free
skinny,
super soldier serum.
Yeah, malnourished Josh Allen. Yeah,
that's my favorite one.
Yeah. Patton saying Baker Mayfield looks like Aaron. Aaron was here first.
Amen.
That's true.
That's true. I was around. Goated.
All right, guys. Again, I think we need this game. I'm looking forward to it. Also, I'm not gonna feel bad. I kind of like the hour earlier start, like prime time, but 7:15. Game ends at 10:15. We're gonna be doing the show. I might even be in bed before midnight. Like, it's kind of nice.
I was just saying that my wife was asking what it was like this weekend, what the game was, what time it was, and what we're making and stuff like that. And I said, this early start used to kind of annoy me when I was younger, but now having kids, like, it's been frustrating. They can only watch small portions of the game. I'll get to watch more of the game with my kids.
Yeah, and then for being first half.
Yeah. For being a post-game show host, it's also nice. It was a long with camping this past weekend and then coming in and doing a show and being on late. And then how it is. Like, you can't just like shut this off and go to bed after a show. So it won't be as late of a night here for us on a school night this week. So that'll be nice.
I'll take it. All right, guys. Appreciate it. Especially shout out to all the Falcons fans that jumped on with us tonight. Appreciate that. Great job by our first time guest, Scott. Scott Kennedy was fantastic tonight. You guys in the chat were fantastic. You guys know, every time we do this, we ask, give us a like, give us a rating, give us a review. It goes a long ways. Wherever you're listening, come back into the show description and leave a comment there. Let us know what your score prediction is. Let us know what you think the score is going to be for the game here. It goes a long ways to help us out. We really, really appreciate it.
Let us know, do I look like Baker Mayfield?
Yeah. What other average white guys does Aaron
or
also?
What other like low end Josh Allen comment.
Yes.
Can you give me the best low end Josh Allen comment?
That's a fantastic one. Leave us comments. Whoever comes up with the funniest analogy or comment there. I think somebody just had
pathetic looking Josh Allen I am.
Someone, Castaway Josh Allen. That's a pretty good one.
I like
That's
it.
a pretty good
I like
one.
it, Lou. Thank
Give
you.
us what version of Josh Allen does Aaron most look closely to? We'll read the best ones on the show. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that'll be fun for me.
All right, guys. On behalf of fantastic producer Colin Ritchie and my lovely Josh Allen-esque co-host Aaron Quinn, I am Greg Thompson. You have been listening to Cover1 Buffalo, and we are out.